Welcome to Project Untethered, where we give quick tips on how to build a travel life.
Let's talk about how to find amazing digital nomad accommodations around the world for the best price possible.
Is it Airbnb? Is it hostels? Is it guest houses? The answer is no. Well, at least for most people.
Here are the pros and cons for each option.
At the end, we'll share our favorite way to find places to live as digital nomads.
Let's go.
Let's go. First option is hostels. Now, don't get me wrong, we love hostels. They're an awesome place to travel cheap and make friends when you're backpacking. But when you become a digital nomad, things change.
And hostels are not the best place to get work done.
In hostels, you're surrounded by regular travelers who are there to have fun, not to work. There are rarely comfortable work areas, and even if you are, you'd have to use headphones to block out the hustle and bustle of the hostel, which makes you look like an antisocial dweeb.
And you're gonna get bored anyways because everyone is gonna be partying around you and you're gonna be sitting by a computer.
Not fun, guys.
Plus, as a digital nomad, hostels might not be your cheapest option anymore.
This will depend on where you are in the world, but for example, let's say you paid $12 a night for a shared dormitory room, and that would come out to $360 per month. That's the same price we paid for an epic furnished apartment in Bangkok, complete with an infinity pool, gym, and a sweet work area on the 50th floor that had a view of the entire city.
If you don't believe us, check out this video that we made of a tour.
We still like visiting hostels every now and then just to get our fix of social life, but it's not a very good permanent digital nomad strategy.
Okay, so your next option is hotels and guest houses.
These can actually be alright for shorter stays, especially if you're in countries with cheaper hotels, like in Colombia you can get it for $15 or $20. But they're usually not a good long-term solution for digital nomads.
There is no social life, there is no kitchen, and for the same price you can even get an Airbnb.
Which is cozier and more comfortable for regular life.
But we're not saying the Airbnb is the best option. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about Airbnb. We've actually used Airbnb a lot, especially in the past. But nowadays, it seems like everything is getting more expensive and it's no longer the best option for most people.
Sure, you can get discounts for longer stays, but they're still usually overpriced compared to the next option.
That said, if you're less worried about budget and more worried about convenience, Airbnb can still be a really cool option. For one, it's backed by a huge company, and so if you have any issues, you can call them and get things figured out and fixed. Whereas some other options, you don't have that type of backup.
It's also super convenient to have your place before you arrive.
Everything is organized together on one platform. You can read reviews of other people who stayed. You can read things in English, whereas on some other sites, it might be all in a different language. And so it is pretty good for convenience sake. But if you want to make your pennies last as long as possible, it's not the best option. All right, guys, now for the good stuff. Before we get into a free, unique housing option, here are some different ways you can get the best prices for normal digital nomad accommodation.
We're not huge fans of Facebook, but in this case, could be useful.
Here's what you do. You choose your destination and then you look up Facebook groups, expat groups for that destination, digital nomad groups, short-term rental groups, and you join all those groups. You can browse through and see if anyone's renting furnished apartments on Facebook, and if you can't find any good ones, you can just publish your own post saying what you're looking for, what your budget is, and usually people will answer with a bunch of different options for you.
And if that option doesn't work, you can still go to Facebook Marketplace and search for the place that you're looking for.
Now, sometimes these might be in a different language, but the handy part of Facebook is they can translate it, and so you can still see what they're saying. A lot of times, locals will post on Marketplace or in these different groups because it's way cheaper than using Airbnb because they charge tons of fees on Airbnb.
That means cheaper prices for you.
Now, for the absolute cheapest way, which is a very adventurous way and also time-consuming way, is to book a hostel in the area that you're interested in for just a couple of days, and as soon as you get there, go out walking around the area looking on foot for places to rent. Now, this obviously works better in areas that are popular with digital nomads.
Yeah, for example, we did this in Chiang Mai, Thailand. We went around like in 10 places and then we found a very cheap and good option.
The advantage to this method is you get to know the neighborhood, you get to know the transportation options in the area, the restaurants, and you get a better feel before you commit long term to a place.
One thing to remember in all of these options is that the longer you stay, the cheaper it's gonna be for you.
Right, if you calculate it on a per night basis, if you do a month-long stay, it's only going to cost a fraction of, say, a week's stay. And if you're willing to do like a 6-month contract or something, it could be way, way less than what you'd pay for a month's stay. Like I think in Chiang Mai or in some places, we saw places that were like up to 50% less per month if you had a longer contract. Okay, the last option is for all y'all looking for free accommodation.
And that is house sitting.
House sitting is basically a way to get free housing around the world, sometimes in really awesome places, in exchange for looking after the house and usually some pets as well.
We have met some people who have traveled around the world for years without paying a cent.
Can you believe that, guys? Usually the most difficult part of this strategy is finding your first gig, getting hired with no experience. And we made a video on how we found our first housing assignment, which we'll link to here in case you're interested. We'll also link to our favorite place to find house sitting opportunities below in the description.
Finding affordable accommodation is a super important part of your digital nomad budget.
But there's a bunch of other factors to budgeting that most nomads forget about. Check out this video next to learn how to create a bulletproof digital nomad budget for your next adventure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.